Are you making the most of the opportunities presented by online teaching? We'd love to introduce Lessonspace, a platinum sponsor for TutorFest 2025. Over 80% of Lessonspace users reported business growth after switching to the platform, and teachers using the platform, on average, have more students and report higher revenue than those on other platforms. We're all about growing your tuition business, and that's why we're proud to offer you 50% off your first 3 months at Lessonspace so that you can try it out. Sign up for a 2-week free trial today and use the code TutorFest25 for a discount. That's TutorFest25, all caps, no spaces. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Grow Your Tutoring Business. Today we're going to be talking about resourcefulness. We're going to be talking about that adaptability in business and why it's important through different points. We'll probably cover about 3 or 4 different points in today's podcast. So this is for all business owners, I think. But I think if you're just starting out, or perhaps you've been tutoring for 6 months to a year, perhaps you're quite new to it, this can be particularly useful to you because we do carry around a baggage from previous things in our lives, like you leaving teaching or relationships, the way you've been brought up. And we carry these things around with us, and they either help us out when we're older, or we're making big decisions like running our own business, or some things provide a block. I think with resourcefulness in mind, it's about making more of what you have and not keep striving to find the next shiny object or the next, what we might consider the magic wand scenario, where we think that, but I mean, I know I sell courses and support for tutors, so I say this with all of the love, and I would love to make sure that everybody goes into that investment in themselves with their eyes open and all of the possible questions they can think of answered. But we don't want people to say, come on and do a course with me, and then go, oh, that didn't work, and then jump into someone else's course, and then that didn't work, and then jump into maybe a mastermind or a membership and find out that doesn't work. And all along, it wasn't the thing that was the issue. It's the fact that we're bringing other things around with us that cause the block, whether that's things like imposter syndrome. It could be the fact that we've got a closed mindset rather than an open mindset. It could be that we just aren't following through with the actions, so we tend to jump to the next thing. And so when we're talking about resourcefulness, I think it's very easy as teachers, especially, to go, right, we're talking about resources then, and we're talking about what we've got available and what schemes of work we might use or what books we might buy. And do you know what? Some of that's true, but actually it's more about those softer skills that we carry around with us as well. So let's define resourcefulness for us in business. It's about being like a good problem solver, and it's having that adaptability. I was doing a talk recently, and we to a group of tutors, and part of that talk was at the adaptability in your business. It's about saying that things change over time and nothing ever stands still. That's kind of like I think the beauty in business. It's the thing that makes it quite addictive in a way. You roll with the punches, and if you're somebody that's similar to me, where you kind of need that pressure, the pressure is what gives you the buzz. It's the constant changing of the landscape that keeps me interested. However, there's times when that gets tiring. There's times when I think, oh my gosh, I wish I could just have a certain amount deposited into my account, stress-free life, when it gets really like get weighed down with it all. That's kind of what I tend to think. But actually, it's a very passing thought. I think I'd find that really boring now. But I have the resourcefulness to keep continuing and looking at a scenario or problem and go, right, there must be a way to overcome it. I know we all have this skill as teachers because we firefight in the classroom every day. If you as a senior leader, you're firefighting all the time as assistant heads, head teachers, CEOs, or if you're part of a C-suite team in an academy, you have this skill because you have practiced it on a day-to-day basis. But we often leave under a cloud, or perhaps other reasons for leaving, and then there's still other things that sit beneath the surface of our lives that can cause a block to growth, and we need to try and figure that out. So resourcefulness is not about just having more or trying to get more. It's about looking at what you have and getting more from it. So that could be physical resources. It could be that you look at what you've already created. As I say, I know, like a lot of established businesses listen to this too, and we might be thinking about content creation. We might be thinking about finding new clients. We might be thinking about onboarding tutors. What is it that we already have within us, or maybe even possibly created in the past, that we could still be using, or we could be repurposing or tweaking slightly, we've done the work once, so let's not do it again, but maybe a slight tweak, and suddenly we've got our social media sorted for the next 6 months, because the previous 6 months social media was probably okay. We don't need to come up with new things all the time. So we're going to look at we need to look at what's happening in our business, what we've already created. Can we repurpose it? Can we use it? I mean, look, I think that in the main, we're quite open people. I don't think many of us are leaving school in a fixed mindset. I don't get me wrong. I think some of us are leaving with vulnerabilities and have self-doubts and self-esteem issues in the early stages. But most of us have an open mindset, and that's why a lot of us can find our way again. And I use this a little bit tongue in cheek, but fairly quickly. Like it, I mean, I haven't kept it a secret. I'm no stranger to sharing the vulnerability of what happened when I left the school, and I didn't really do much for 2 to 3 months. You know, really, literally did just stay in bed and just functioned. Didn't really do a lot of growing over that time. Did a lot of slowing down and healing and trying to make sense of what was going on. And so in those moments, that what I'm going to call those down moments, I probably did have quite a fixed mindset because that was what was required of me. But then coming out the other side, there was a desire to be different and do something different. And that's where growth mindset comes into play. You know, we have this within us. As long as we're making and creating the right environment for ourselves. So being resourceful for me is also about digging deep in those moments, that have the acknowledgement around like, okay, this might be how I'm feeling now, but it's not always going to be this way. You know, that kind of like this will pass kind of mentality. And then when it does, like be ready and be open for change and investment in yourself, whether that's like what I did was listen to a shed load of podcasts and watch shed loads of YouTube videos about personal development, about business. I found a community of people who just aligned with values in the way I wanted to grow. And I suppose that community just helped me reframe the challenges that I was facing, as well as providing advice and guidance along the way. So sometimes being resourceful can be about, where are you spending your time? Are you spending it with people who are going to build you up, or are you spending it with people who are being negative? Or look, this is a scale, so I don't think it's one nor the other, because there's some people will sometimes turn up and say really nice things and build you up, and other times perhaps they're having a bad day and they're feeling negative, and then it passes on, or they try to pass it on to us. So who are you spending your time with? Be resourceful around that. Identify who the people are, the communities or networking groups you can get involved with that are going to build you up. This will help you reframe your limitations. This will help you reframe your problems into possible solutions. Business is not easy. Let's not pretend that somebody's going to leave school and within a year have replaced their teacher salary. You definitely can do it, and I could introduce you to 20, 30 people who have done it within sort of 3 to 6 months, let alone a year. But however, there are still some people who don't, and that's okay. And we have to be open to finding other ways to make up that money. Again, we're going to be resourceful with our time while we're trying to grow our business in the dream vision of what we want. And so then it's like identifying challenges as well, because challenges aren't always clear cut. Like sometimes they are. Like for example, every year I get to have a reset button, the same as most tutors. My 11 plus students leave and I need to onboard new ones. My big challenge there is, let's find new ones. And how I do that, I have a number of different ways, but one of my main ways of doing it is to have some free sessions running over the summer, and I invite parents and children to come and experience a group session. That's my way of overcoming that challenge. Others will turn their nose up and say, well, I'm not doing that for free. That's fine. But you have to find another way of doing that. And many people do. I'll repeat this. It's something that I often says that if you teaching one-to-one, definitely do not give up time. Free sessions, onboarding calls with parents is fine. But you can have one-off sessions with children so they can experience it and then give feedback to their parents. And, I think just keep safety with your time is paramount there, I think. What about like looking for professional looking websites or professional looking social media posts? Some big companies will use professional designers and outsource everything, and it can be quite expensive. But if we're going to start lean and we're going to be resourceful, perhaps we just need to look at the free version of Canva for now and pine over the pro version of it for a while we're building up our business. But it's an insanely good tool to use that makes designing things that fit on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, like almost effortlessly with their templates. And the free templates, there's still plenty there for you to get your teeth into and be inspired by. It doesn't cost you any time, but it's going to cost you a little bit of, sorry, it's going to cost you time, but it's not going to cost you any money. If you're struggling as a full-time teacher and you're thinking, well, how do I get the time to do this? Have you tried batching out some time to sort out your promotion, look at your business, look at how you can grow it? Have you tried to free up time at the weekend where you can find 2 hours late on a Sunday evening just to sit and plan and think, or maybe schedule post, or even be inspired by listening to podcasts or watching YouTube videos, or even connecting with other tutors? How badly do we want it? How badly do we need to leave teaching behind? And often we have to be backed into a corner, I find. When I reflect back on a lot of the people that I've spoken to on the podcast or our live events, often there's like this pinch point in life where, like similar to me, like I was asked to leave. So what on earth was I going to do? And my whole identity was wrapped into being a teacher, which was really hard to unwrap. Hence why there was that little period in time where I wasn't really functioning properly. But my gosh, like if that hadn't have happened, I would still be teaching right now, and highly likely being really unhappy as well. So like, thank God that did happen. And this is again being resourceful, isn't it? With how we think about the narrative of our life. Is it a negative narrative that you're telling yourself, or is it a positive one? Like I know in the moment it feels really negative, and I don't want to take any power away from that, because it is a powerful feeling when something like that happens. But once you've moved past it, once it's now behind you, I think there's a lot of power behind actually being really grateful that that moment happened. And I know I look back now, and it's 6, maybe nearly 7 years ago. I'm so grateful that it happened. But I remember having one of my first business coaching sessions, which was maybe late 2021, so sort of 2 years after the event, and I was still talking about it in this negative light. And I remember my business coach at the time, she was saying like, "Oh, do you know what? Like, I hear what you're saying about I think I was using the word trauma." She's like, "I can hear what you're saying about the word trauma, but do you know what? I'm not sure that's serving you anymore. That we all experience." And she was really kind. She said, "We all experience trauma in different ways, and what one might consider a traumatic experience, someone else wouldn't." And I took that on board, but she just very gently asked me to reconsider the way I was telling that story to myself. So I was given a lot of weight, I was given a lot of power, but in a very negative sense. And actually she was like, "Look, you're sat here now, you've got a growing tuition company, you've got this idea." This was when the idea of Tutors Who Thrive was just kind of like blossoming. You've got this new blossoming idea. You wouldn't be having these things in your life had that event not happened. Is it time to start rewriting the story? So again, being resourceful with the way that we think is another option. I mean, look, there's other things we could go into here. Like, for example, things that I bang the drum about a lot, which is that collaboration over competition. Like, and I think it gets overused, so it's almost sounds like a cliche now, which I don't like. I think it's overused by certain people not just within the tuition industry, but within others as well. I love collaboration. I think collaboration is where everybody wins, but it takes a certain mindset for it to really work. Like we're in the middle, or almost in the middle of a 30-day challenge at the moment. So where are we? We're May the 19th, 2025. We're just finished, or just starting week one really of the challenge. It's 30-day challenge. It's a free challenge. And it's largely done through email and a WhatsApp group, which is the first time we've done anything like this. And the collaboration that's going on, and people are hungry for it in that WhatsApp group. Like, it's blown my mind, but it's how we all win. Because if I've got connections with as many tutors as possible, and they get inquiries which they can't fulfill, or I get inquiries that I can't fulfill, I can pass them on. And that's powerful for a couple of the reasons. The first one is like relationships with other tutors, right? That will work. Like what you put out will come back. And that takes a lot of trust. So trust me when I say that this is true. This has been my experience of business, and particularly with collaboration with tutors. But the second powerful thing about that collaboration is when a parent approaches you, you have an answer, you have a solution for them, and that's not missed, that's taken on board. So you are still part of the conversation when it comes to tutors. Like you're not saying, no, I can't help you, you're just referring on. And so when they talk about if they talk to other parents, you still get that credit, which I really love. So I think resourcefulness is way bigger than just looking at even just making more of what you have. Actually, I think it's about that internal mindset of where you go when things get tough. So now we're talking about your independence as a business owner, like your confidence as a person and as a business owner, sustainability within your business, as I suppose, as well as trust in the process. Like, because once you've been through it, if anybody's coming up to the end of their first year, you're probably going through those same wobbles I did my first year, where I was like, oh my God, last year was amazing. Am I going to do that next year? Is this just a fluke? Is this a one-off? Like, of all those strategies I used last year to find clients, do they still apply now? And then I had no worries because it keeps growing. And the reason it grows is because you do a good job and parents talk about you, word of mouth starts to kick in, and you never really look back. And you add all of this other thing in around resourcefulness, like your connections, like the fact that you see the problems you're facing as a challenge. You've got an open mindset, a growth mindset around these things. I can't see how we lose if we take this resourcefulness on as a skill and something to learn along the way. As I say, and I'll leave it here and I'll conclude it at this point, like I believe that as teachers who have been in the classroom, we have this in spades. We have so much of it, but it's teasing that out of us again. It's making sure we allow it to impact our lives, whereas we may have had to have put it in a box somewhere over the last few years as a full-time teacher. Okay, I'll leave you there. I hope you enjoy it. Please let me know if what you've taken away. As always, I'm always open to ideas with podcasts. I absolutely love coming to share things like this with you. I'm also looking for guests. Okay, so guests. I haven't done a guest one for a little while. I have like our friends of Tutors Who Thrive, like Vicky Gilby and Jane Billam, come on. And they talk about, what they're up to, and it's always lovely to do that. But I'd also like to start talking to tutors again who have just started or perhaps been in business for a little while. They've just got a story to share, because I think that's how we get inspiration from one another. So if you're interested, drop me a line and send me an email, and we'll arrange a date. We'll have a quick catch up and see what we'd like the focus of the podcast to be. Right, okay, everybody, I will speak to you all soon. Take care.